Yeah, let's start. Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening. It's 10 p.m. in South Korea, so thanks very much, our Korean guests, for coming at such a late hour. Really appreciate it. This is the third of our series under the auspice of the EDAS's Community Wealth Building Centre of Excellence. EDAS is the Economic Development Association for Scotland, and we're the Scotland's peak body for economic development, with around over 3,000 members across Scotland. This is going to be a fantastic event. We've got people from on best practice from around the globe. We've got our own David Ross, who's the leader of Fife Council. We've got Franz, who's works for the city of Amsterdam. We've got Dr. Bay and E.K. Lee from the Hope Institute, a think tank based in South Korea, a local government think tank, if you like, who are advancing community wealth building across South Korea. I know all these people reasonably well. They're all brilliant speakers and have got a lot to tell us in terms of the best practice in their own countries, how they're taking up community wealth building in their own countries, and some of the challenges they face. So it should be a great session. I'll give a few opening words, then we'll hear from each speaker for 15 minutes or so. Then we'll have plenty of time for discussion at the end. Any questions you may have, or any thoughts, even get going in the chat. Usually, people that have been in these sessions before have used the chat function quite a lot, and there's good side conversations taking place. So please use that facility. It's a great facility to have, and it's really good to create a richness to the experience of the hour and 15 minutes we've got here. Just a little bit as a backdrop to this, some of you may know that I'm apart from being chair of EDAS, I'm also the global lead for community wealth building with the Democracy Collaborative, a USA-based research organisation. And my work in community wealth building takes me to not only Scotland, but also the USA, Canada, Australia, where I'm going next week, New Zealand, England, even continental Europe, and even a few weeks ago I spoke about community wealth building with people in Kenya. So it's a growing movement, it's global. And it's important to note that in terms of this conversation about best practice, that the history of community wealth building, initially through its work in Cleveland, Ohio, started largely around anchors and procurement practices of anchors, looking at improving developing small business base within that locality, as well as cooperatives. And that anchor and procurement focus followed through to the work that you're all familiar with in terms of Preston. Now, that initial seed of community wealth building grew through the wider dimensions across the 5 pillars, which I actually designed. And that 5-pillar model is one which we would call our full cream community wealth building. So in certain places across the world, you have this full cream version of community wealth building that covers all the 5 pillars of CWB, very much about economic system change, digging into the bigger changes that require in our economy to address the wealth extraction, to address the poverty, to address the inequality, to create more vim and effervescence within the economy in a deep way. So there's these full cream versions. That's important to say. There's variations across the world in terms of the extent to which they're full cream, or variations of them relating to the individual pillars. The other thing to say in terms of best practice and what we can learn from across the globe is that there is different directions, different starting points to community wealth building. For instance, in the United States, places like Atlanta and St. Louis, those places have started their community wealth building journey from very much a community activist perspective. The local authorities, local municipalities are involved, but the genesis of it came from the activists on the ground, communities and neighbourhoods and parts of the city. And that's important. It's more of a bottom-up direction of travel for community wealth building. In other areas, the starting point for community wealth building has more been the anchors, or it's been including the local authorities. So it's more top down. I'm not making a pejorative point there. I just think there's different patterns of where it starts. And it seems to be that the best community wealth building is where you have this anchor top down meeting the bottom up, where you have this activist community energy as well as these anchor or local authorities taking the lead too. Now, Alison might put something in the chat, which is a recent paper that I did at the Democracy Collaborative called The Enabling Conditions for Community Wealth Building. Now, this is an important document, a working document, because it starts to look at the various factors, the conditions that see community wealth building grow, build strongly, and are sustained. Some areas start strong, but then it peters out to some extent. Some areas start strong and keep going. And those enabling conditions are really important. So in that paper, you'll see there's 3 overarching factors that relate to the different cadence or pace of community wealth building. It's about the uptake, the scale of the uptake, the veracity, the growth, and they're all a range of conditions that affect that pace, if you like. One is people, politicians, activists, champions and anchors, the community. That's an important factor to consider, the people, the agency, if you like, that's involved. The second dimension of these enabling conditions is place. This is about existing policy, the legislative framework, a trigger. It could be a factory leaving, a flood, a forest fire, an adverse thing that triggers people to think we need to get poverty. These are trigger elements in place that stimulate community wealth building. There's also a value alignment. It may be a philanthropic body who seeds the money to advance community wealth building. It could be a particular sector, be it wind energy or renewable sector, that's driven it around. So there's factors relating to place. So there's people factors, there's place factors, and then there's organizational factors, like the presence of anchors, non-profit bodies who have got the bit between the teeth in this. So there's a blend of factors in places across the world that see the community wealth building taken off, being enabled, being sustained. And I think today you'll see a blend of those enabling conditions as our 3 guests give their contributions. Okay, that's enough for me for now. We'll go through each of the speakers in turn, and then please keep your questions, thoughts, and comments into the chat, and we'll have a discussion after all 3 speakers have concluded. So we'll start off with, delighted to have with us today is Councillor David Ross, who's the leader of Fife Council. So David, the floor is yours for 15 minutes. David.
Thanks, Neil. And that, the 3 factors you're talking there does ring a kind of chord with what I'm going to hopefully say here. And I think what I'd like to do is just run through very quickly where we are and maybe some of the lessons or the issues that we've come across. If anybody is wanting to follow up anything, I know our project manager Lauren Bennett is also on the call, and she's probably the best port of call for anyone that wishes to follow up. So I think the starting point for us is Fife is a very diverse region, but we have got and had a legacy of coal mines shutting and other industrial decline in some of the major industries, and we've been looking to support and redevelop the local economy very much. So coming across particularly the Preston model, we've must be at least 10 years ago we visited Preston, some of the other authorities, and at that time CLES, Centre for Local Economic Strategies, that Neil was very much associated with. We had a lot of interaction with North Ayrshire that were kind of out in front at on these issues as well, and built up from there. And I think since that time, what we've really tried to do at a policy level is embed community wealth building, as a key strategy for the council, and not something that sits off at the side. So in terms of the council and the community planning partnership, we really have three overarching priorities about tackling poverty, developing the local economy, and addressing climate change. And we recognise that those are all underpinned by community wealth building and a decentralised approach, because Fife is a reasonably big area. In terms of some of the practicalities of what we're doing, again, like many others, we've really started off in looking at procurement and trying to up our level of contracts. And we've got our level of contracts to local suppliers up to about 48% now. And our target is to hit at least 50. We support businesses, small businesses particularly, to get on the procurement frameworks, which are often a barrier to that. So a lot of workshops and work goes into that. We've also we have had quite a large program of renewal building schools, particularly in renewing our school estate. So working with big contractors like BAM and Robertsons and the Hubco, and in that interaction, we've ensured that the supply chain is local and that those contractors are actually trying their best to engage local suppliers, and I think that's been really successful. And out of that as well, looking at the community benefits and the social value as well. So rather than as we started with community benefits from these kind of things being a bit ad hoc, we have now a portal where community groups can come forward and put themselves forward for that, and similarly some of the contractors and the businesses can look at opportunities for providing community benefits. And I think the quality has risen in terms of what we're seeing there. In terms of fair work, this is something, I mean, we're really, I think, really proud of at the moment, that is developing about our life chances model, that is really taking people that are facing disadvantage, barriers to employment, and providing really guaranteed jobs and opportunities for those that are able to do that, and helping the authority and our partners, particularly NHS. We're working with NHS Fife now on this, to fill hard to fill vacancies, which we have, like other authorities, and we set an initial target of 60 placements, and we've now really surpassing that with 46 filled and another 19 planned starts, and we're exporting that. As I say, NHS Fife are now picking that up. Our arm's length trusts are picking it up, places like the college, and others. So that's something I think we're building on. I think probably less advanced in some of the others, although the plural ownership side, we have had community asset transfers. We do support particularly SMEs, but social enterprises. The economy, our economy and community wealth building board, that is fairly newly set up, is now agreeing to focus on this. And the other one I would mention in passing is the Big Hoose project, that is a community-led project and supported very much and pushed very much by the former Prime Minister Gordon Brown, that is taking particularly things that have working with Amazon, that are located in Fife, their warehouse, things that are returned to them and would otherwise be destroyed, actually taking them are perfectly good and passing them on to families and households that need them. And that has grown not just to Amazon, but a whole range of other groups, organizations and businesses playing into that. And I think, again, that's a ground up initiative that we're happy to support. On finance, I think we struggle with looking at the use of the pension funds, and the bottom line is, wherever the money comes from, it has to be paid back, and that's a bit of a barrier. But our credit union, Kingdom, was a credit union has now developed into a community bank, and it allows it to do a wider range of things. Again, the linkage to community wealth building, we're quite strong on participatory budgeting approaches that really give control over where money is spent to local communities. And on land and assets, we're developing a joint assets register with other public sector anchors. Just in passing, we've also now co-located the management of both NHS Fife and the Health and Social Care Partnership within the council's headquarters, and that's allowing us to make more productive use of some of the old premises. And we have had approaches to redevelop land. There's an old police station that has now been developed for housing, demolished and developed for housing, some of which we've got for social housing. And as one of our 3-year transformation projects, we're now embarking on a kind of place program, looking at how services join up on a place basis and how we make better use of the assets there. So I've mentioned a number of the agencies that we collaborate with, and that really is something I think that is growing. Again, we've mentioned NHS Fife that are working with us, but the whole of the community planning partnership has now kind of adopted that community wealth building approach. And beyond that, we're part of 2 city region deals, both Tay cities and the Edinburgh and South East Scotland, both of which have adopted a community wealth building approach underpinning, their objectives for inclusive growth, not just growth at any rate. And one of the things that the city region Edinburgh and South East Scotland has done is a really good benefits realisation plan, and that allows us to measure some of the social value that's coming back. And as an example, our industrial innovation investment program of rebuilding and refurbishing industrial premises, we've demonstrated all the people that are involved in that, all the workforce, come from within a 40 miles radius of the area, which I think is good. So just to really summarize, I think there are probably 5 things I would say and important in developing our approach. The first one is getting people to understand what it's about. It's not just about procurement, and it's not about putting a barrier around Fife. It's about growing and recirculating the money and the wealth that is in the community. We want our firms to be able to bid for work outside. We want the economy to grow, not just put a barrier around it. I think embedding it in the mainstream policy and as a priority, and not seeing it as something off to the side and separate in it itself. I think I've always said we need practical examples to demonstrate what we're talking about and the benefits of that. And I think that links to the 4th one about actually measuring the benefits and being able to demonstrate the social value and the financial value of what we're doing. And I think as well, not focusing on things you can actually achieve and implement, rather than a scattergun approach and maybe not achieving what you want. So an incremental approach to this. So that's a kind of whistle-stop tour about where we are and some of the thinking behind what we've done. And I'm happy to, as I say, pick up out with this anybody that's interested. Thanks, Neil.
Thanks, David. Thanks, Councillor Ross. And no, excellent, really eloquent and clear there. And I love those 5 points you mentioned at the end there. And particularly, the need for information, deepen into the mainstream, the benefits, the measuring, and how there's a full-on approach. So, no, really, you've done great stuff in Fife over the number of years. So, thanks for all the work you do, and we'll hopefully get discussion and some questions to you. And good shout out to Lauren as well, who's the community wealth building worker in Fife Council, who I know does great work, as well as all the colleagues there. So, great stuff. Brilliant. Thank you for that. There's some action on the chat. Keep going with the action. There's some great comments. I put in some links there to what David was referring to vis-a-vis the Big House and the Kingdom of Fife Credit Union. So there's links there. Franz Beekman, from the Programme Manager for Community Wealth Building in the municipality. Hey, Franz, I've known Franz for many years. Franz, how you doing, mate? Nice to see you. I know you've been rushing in from somewhere else. You're a busy man there. So great to have you here. Thanks very much for coming on the call. And now, I was going to ask you 3 questions, Franz, and then you were going to respond. Is that good?
That's good. Yeah. I've prepared more or less the answers already for your questions, but let's start that way. And if go on, if I'm too long, then stop me, and I'm not long enough, then you ask me another question. Just find my way through this.
Well, you know that I know you well, and I know that you're always extraordinarily eloquent, and you can speak. But I'll cut into you if you're keeping too much, and I'll direct you. So there you go. Franz, just I think at the outset, just if you could explain a little bit of the background to community wealth building in New West, the neighbourhood that is the focus for community wealth building there, and really why community wealth building. So a bit of the background and why you going down that community wealth building path.
Yeah, I think it's good to explain what New West is in Amsterdam. Amsterdam consists of 7 districts. It's about, at the moment, Amsterdam has 900,000 inhabitants, and 170,000 are living in New West. And in Amsterdam, we talk about within the ring, which is the highway around the center of Amsterdam, and outside of the ring. And everybody usually knows only the inside part, which is central and the canals, etc. Outside are the more than half of the people live outside, and those are the poorest areas. New West is one of them. It's the biggest. There's another one in southeast, and in the north of Amsterdam. There's a third district, which altogether have about 500,000 people living there, and they're quite poor. Everybody knows Amsterdam as a very rich city, which it is, but this part is quite poor, and it's also very excluded. I mean, there's a lot of exclusion. There's a lot of discrimination. It's mainly people from Moroccan, Turkish, Suriname, and descent. So not European, not Western, not Dutch, that are living here. It's also an area which is surrounded by the big power engines of the Dutch economy, which is the Amsterdam Harbor, the airport, Schiphol, and there's what we call the South X, which is the financial district very nearby, where the big banks and the big consultants are that arrange the tax evasion for Dutch and other companies here, and that's all around New West. And within New West, there's a concentration of people like undocumented people, also very much a lot of labor migrants from Eastern Europe mainly, tens of thousands living there. So it's altogether a mix of let's say the downside part of the Dutch economy. Well, we have our program focusing on New West. We are part of a bigger program, which is called a national program, which has chosen 20 areas like this in the Netherlands for 20 years to focus on, to help them, let's say, recover, to battle inequality, etc. And we are the biggest area within this program, but there are 19 more. And it's a real long-term project. So it's a national program that's focusing on 20 years of building towards, let's say, well, it depends of the districts. Every district has its own autonomy. Within our national program in New West, community wealth building has been chosen as a, let's say, a central guideline for the economic part, or the social economic part. So that's the context in which we operate. It has taken a long time to convince the Amsterdam politics and especially the civil servants to adopt this. 6 years ago, in another program I was working, and I invited Ted Howard. You already mentioned Cleveland. Everybody probably knows in this webinar who Ted Howard is. He started with community wealth building in Cleveland. I asked him to come here, and since 2 years, 1.5 years, he is added to my program as our strategic advisor. So, and he lives in Amsterdam, so I'm very happy with that. But it took a long time to convince the people to adopt this. But we finally were able to start up this program, which is 1.5 million per year. We have for 2 or 3 years that are left from this coalition period. So we are already preparing for the next coalition period. That's a bit of the context in which we work. Maybe one final thing to say is that this is also the area which there's a lot of tensions between different groups. For example, the Moroccan boys who rioted a few months ago when the Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters were in Amsterdam. That was you may have heard about it. It was quite something. They are in these neighborhoods. They come from these neighborhoods, and that's also the criminal part. So this is not criminal. There are several elements going on, but it's a very complicated and complex situation in which we operate. Also, what we do is work a lot with the neighborhood organizations. We visited you, Neil, and Preston and Scotland more than a year ago in November 2023. We went with a group of 25 people from the neighborhoods here to see what's community wealth building in practice in Preston and in Edinburgh and in Glasgow. And that really helped us a lot for our let's say bottom-up approach that we have. What is this approach? We have these 5 pillars because of course we have Ted here who helps us with the theory and the practice from other countries on community wealth building. So we started with these 5 pillars. We organized it a little bit differently. We have 2 main pillars. One is creating or facilitating, supporting cooperatives. And the other one is the procurement part, which is mainly focusing now on the municipality itself. Amsterdam buys for 3.1 billion euros per year on procurement. So if we can take a part of that and direct it towards these local businesses and the local cooperatives, that would really make a change. It takes quite a while although there is a formal commitment from high-level politics, and I have all the directors behind me within the municipality who are responsible for this. Still, it takes a lot of time to really change practice. So we are now more or less a year operating. There's still no contracts being changed towards the cooperatives. That's partly because there's no cooperative yet really operating. We started one. We focused on 4 or 5 sectors. One is the maintenance of green, let's say green parks, etc., within the district. Another one is maintenance of buildings, real estate. from the municipality, but also from other anchors. A third one is a catering cooperative. It's about 20, 30, mainly women from the neighborhoods, from different cuisines, from different cultures, that cook now in their homes for the neighborhood, and we got them all together in a cooperative, and they are selling their catering services towards the anchor organizations, but we don't have real contracts yet. So these are the two pillars, and then there's the third one, which we call infrastructure. It's building the ecosystem. It's building the whole support around the cooperatives, which is, for example, a common what we call employer organization. So the people who are working in the cooperatives, they don't have enough long-term security yet from their cooperatives to be able to work there. So we try to create something that gives them money for a longer term security, and other administrational services that we create to supply the cooperatives. Then we try to organize not only the procurement department you have to know that Amsterdam has about 70 departments. It has 19,000 civil servants. It has a annual budget of 7 or 8 billion euros. It's huge, which means it's a huge bureaucracy. So if we try to change the procurement, then we have one department, but there are many other departments in Amsterdam that we struggle with, like the real estate department, for example, who spend millions and millions per year to maintain the real estate of the municipality. That's another department that we have to deal with. Then there's the legal department, because there's a lot of objection from the people within the municipality in terms of procurement rules, European rules, etc. They say it's not possible, it's not allowed, and then we have to start convincing them. Which we do, and we really make a process, but that's what we are setting up also, and it's because it's such a huge bureaucracy, we still have it's a lot of effort, so to say. Another thing is this is the real estate, but it's also the land. In Amsterdam, we have a kind of system that most of the land is owned by the municipality, and it's like a kind of how is it called? Rent from, you have to pay an annual amount of money for many years. That's the way it's organized, which gives quite a lot of power for the municipality to decide on the land, how the land is used. However, with a huge housing shortage, etc., the big project developers and the like are very powerful in everywhere in the world, but also in Amsterdam, even if it's a progressive city. So that's a struggle we have, how to use the land, and also to not make it too commercial. So the municipality used to use the land to own a lot of money, to earn a lot of money, to be able, as they said, to spend on social issues. We say we can also use this land in another way. For example, give it away or for a low price to the cooperatives and other companies, local companies that then can more easily compete. So that's what we're in now. As I said, we only started almost a year ago. I think we're really making progress. We are really starting to show the first results, which are new co-ops starting up, and contracts probably in the coming months being awarded to them. What we are up to now is two things. One is like in every country, but I think in mainland Europe, it's very clear we are in radical right-wing storm in the Netherlands also with our national government. Amsterdam is a kind of exception. It's one of the few more progressive strongholds within the Netherlands, but still they are under a lot of pressure. They are being cut their subsidies from the national government, and they are also being attacked on, let's say, being left-wing. Well, community well-building, although we tried not to present it that way, is seen as such a left-wing project. So we really have to be very careful in how to handle all of this and to show the short-term results, even if we think and say that this is a long-term project. You cannot show results within 1 year or 2 years. The real big change, the system change, as you said before, Neil, what we try to work on is what we aim for. But in the meantime, we have to also show on the shorter term concrete results that people understand, and we really have a difficulty to do that. One more thing that maybe I didn't mention is what we added to these pillars, and what's not typical community wealth building is the local bank accounts. So what we would try to do as community wealth building is circulation of money. So not extraction, but circulation. We keep the money in the neighborhood, the district, the city. That's the aim by everything we do. But we also try to do that by adopting local euro bank accounts, which essentially means that you put your euro on this account. It's tagged in a digital way. There's a tag, and you can only spend it in the neighborhood or in the district, or you can take it out, but then you pay a little bit of money, a short percentage. We try to include that in our policies, and especially this element is attracting a lot of political opposition, so to say. So we try to move very carefully, but I think we're really making progress. We also have a lot of support from the neighborhood organizations, which is important because they are quite critical in Amsterdam, and there's a lot of distrust of politics in general, and also in our district it's even more so. Only 20% of the people go voting. So there is a lot of distrust also for our city government. So we need the support of the bottom-up organizations, and up till now we do have that. So that's a really important part. The politics cannot change up till now because of this bottom-up support we have. So that's, yeah, there's a lot more to say, but maybe you have a question, Neil.
And that was fantastic, really, really clear, and again, eloquent, fabulous. There's one question actually, is that what do you think was the real trigger of why community wealth building was adopted in New West? What was it that attracted the city to community wealth building, do you think? That differs from traditional regeneration renewal programs.
Several elements. It's a bit of luck. Some persons I think are very important. We had the cover of I think the most important, or two of the most important politicians in the coalition. First, one was the mayor. She used to talk about community wealth building, not entirely meaning the same thing as we mean with it, but she used it, and that helped us a lot. And we used this to go to other people. Look, the mayor is also talking about it, and there was the leader of the biggest party, and it's the Green Left Party in Amsterdam. He was really adopting the idea. And he pushed for it, and he put it in the program. He put it in the coalition agreement, and he's the one who I'm responding to now. I'm working for him, and that really made a difference. The other thing is that there is a background in Amsterdam, a long-term background of bottom-up activism, neighborhood activism, which has been trying similar things with other names, especially in terms of cooperative building, not so much the procurement side, but the bottom-up side, which is a longer tradition. They adopted it also. I think also the fact that it's practical, it's practical. Community well building is practical. It's not theory. There's a lot of theory behind it, and we know it. But we or you, those who started earlier, have been able to translate this theory into practical steps that we can take within 1 or 2 years, and also on the longer term, of course. And I think that really helped. And Amsterdam is quite, or the Netherlands is not very ideological. It's not very theoretical. It's usually saying all that theoretical bullshit. We don't want to talk about it. Let's just go for the practical thing. And what can we do tomorrow? That's typically Amsterdam, and community wealth building fits into that.
Thanks very much. I love those points you made at the end there, and obviously I know that you've yourself been instrumental in some of this, in pushing it. You've been an insider and outsider in terms of your role within the city, which is an important thing in itself. The role that Frans has played as a senior person inside the council, advocating for this. So, Frans, thanks for all your work you do and how you've done it so far, and good luck to you. And hopefully we'll stay around. We'll get some discussion going in a minute. Please keep your chat and comments going into the chat bar. Now, my other good friends, E.K. Lee from South Korea and Dr. Bae from South Korea, they're from the Hope Institute, which is a think tank research organization in South Korea. It's now nearly 11 p.m. for South Korean colleagues. So please, the floor is yours, Dr. Bae and E.K. Fire on. You're on mute.
Yeah, okay. Yes. Hello. Okay,
hello.
Great. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon there and good evening here in Seoul, Korea. I'm Eun-Kyung Lee. My full name is Eun-Kyung Lee, but I can go by EK, which is shorter and easier version of my first name. And Dr. Bae, as Nia mentioned, and myself, I'm very happy to be here, and thanks for this wonderful opportunity to share our story related to community wealth building. Since last year of 2024 in March, I have been serving as a director of the Hope Institute. And next slide, please, Allison. The Hope Institute, which is based in Seoul, South Korea, is a think and do tank that focuses on alternative policy research to put social innovation ideas into action. So we were established in 2006. It's almost approaching 20 years. Without any funding from the government or corporate, the Hope Institute is an independent non-profit research organization with the motto of practical way, which the fan mentioned, practical ways of thinking and on-site research. So we focus on identifying social problems that have not been sufficiently addressed by central government or by corporate field. So we introduce research and programs applicable to wide groups of people, such as politicians, policymakers, activists, and encourage them to adopt solutions. And next slide, please. Almost half of our fund comes from the citizens' donation. So we value citizens' participation and ideas to become realized in political arena. In order for this, we have worked on citizen participatory tools and approaches to discover everyday problems and to gather citizens' solutions. And we have extended the forums of social innovation with citizens seeking a better alternatives. And next slide. And more than a decade after, we worked for hard, and some of our achievements are well acknowledged in our society or civic sectors, especially since our founder, Mr. Park Won-soon, was elected as a mayor of Seoul Metropolitan Government in 2011. He initiated many social innovation programs which we were experimented in the Hope Institute, make them in a more systematic policy and scale up. However, after the death of Mayor Park and the progressive local leaders lost in the election in 2020, social innovation-driven policies become the target of political degradation, skepticism, and hasty criticism. So it was important for us to look back what we've done and find the implications to move forward. Next slide. So I would say that we met community wealth building in our desperate search for the next step of social innovation. So after critical reflection on social innovation activities and policies, we feel that we need to enhance locality, community, and sustainability of Korean society, and promote solidarity among those who perform social innovation, including various community activists and social economy players, while doing constant observation of social systems failure and finding alternative solutions. So after we visited Preston, UK in 2023, with a group of local government leaders of our Governors Club, we felt that community wealth building could be a great overarching strategy for revitalizing local economy, which is depopularized and collapsing fast. So we looked at 5 pillars of community wealth building, found that some of them are new, and yet most of them have been done under the name of the Social Innovation Project or Progressive Social Policy in South Korea. Based on this, the Hope Institute and TDC co-worked on a joint paper with Neil and Matthew Brown. And thanks to this work, we could hold a series of community wealth building forums and events in last year, October, by inviting Neil and Matthew here in Korea. And next slide. Among 5 pillars of community wealth building, progressive procurement is somewhat similar with the socially responsible procurement policy in South Korea. But the point is how it can be a useful leverage for community wealth building framework. That was the point. For example, Yeongnam-gun in the southern part of Korea, one of the regions where Neil has visited, is strongly taking up community wealth building strategy. So the Yeongnam-gun enacted an ordinance to implementing community wealth building policy and set up the charge department. Also, Yeongnam-gun made an agreement with the anchor institutions, for example, ship manufacturing company, universities, schools, army, and other local firms for onward cooperation. So we suggested that local food chain expansion, currently only rice and kimchi were provided by local farms, and local currency upgrading. And another place is which is taking up the community wealth building is Ulsan Donggu. It has planning to adopt a university hospital cleaning service with the local cooperatives, which is inspired by Cleveland community wealth building model. And another place is Gyeonggi Province. Council members are interested in community wealth building, so they organized a study sections and forums. And so this is part of the what Neil asked for me to do address during this presentations. And the next slide is about the locally rooted finance. About this category, the clearest issue in South Korea is widening gap between metropolitan area and the rest. So despite all the efforts to revitalize local economy and finance, not much effective so far. So one of the popular policy in this regard was the local currency, which is mainly performed by the local government and the support by the the central government. So in the next slide, as you can see, the Buyeogun, which is the central part of the South Korea, one of the most successful local currency is the one by Buyeogun, which is actively performed by the local government. Especially, it's notable for the first model for local currency for circulation, which is enabled once used local currency to be reused for purchasing another member shops. And for the second category, in the next slide, is just the use of the land and property. Most cases in South Korea were conducted as the forms of community assetization and the social housing. And in the next slide, you can see the pictures of the site of the community assetization and the events around the area. And the next slide is about inclusive and democratic enterprises. About this category, we can address the social economy sectors. Since 1997 Asian financial crisis, social and economic safety and sustainability became the important issue in Korean society. Responding to the needs for alternative way to serve jobs for the vulnerable and the retired elderly, also to the issue of lacking social services in need, social economy was emerged as a useful policy to address them. Social economy sector grew out of grassroots cooperative activities and took up by civic activists and NPO like us. And then institutional support had begun by the Promotion Act in 2007 and the Framework Act on Cooperatives in 2012. Since then, a rapid growth in terms of quantity of social economy enterprises and units was made. However, in terms of quality, weak sustainability, so depending on the support, as well as being precarious by the political change. For example, current Yoon government, the central government, made 5-7% budget cut on the social economy part and the reduced support greatly. So it has a huge impact on the social economy sector. So this is part of the reason why many social economy organizations, particularly based in the region, found that community wealth building is a useful strategy to find a meaningful solution to their sustainability. Because of community wealth building is focusing on a way of local buying, purchasing, and hiring, and plus procurement. We were able to see these points when we organized a local forum with social economy activists network last year with Neil and Matthew. And in the next slide is about the fair work. About the fair work, one of the persistent issues in Korea was polarized labor market. The gap got worsened and the proportion of temporary employee with low wages increased. So as of August 2014, 20% of the total Korean employee were paid less than national minimum wages. A significant number of non-standard employees in the public sector were paid just over the national minimum wages at the time. So policy and action on fair work in Korea has revolved around national minimum wage and the living wage policy and the guarantee of employment security of temporary employees in the public sector. As you can see in the next slide, the South Korean government has raised higher increases in national minimum wages than economic growth rate, or average annual increases in wages. There has been limits to increase in national minimum wages. Because South Korea has had a wide low-range sector and much bigger proportion of small, medium enterprises and temporary employment than other advanced economies, there was some backlash in employment as a result of big increases. So living wage the initiatives in South Korea were inspired by living wage movement examples of Baltimore in the US and Great London Authority in the UK. As living wage movement in the US and UK originally started by trade unions and civic groups and religious groups, here in Korea, living wage movement was suggested by the People's Solidarity for Participatory Democracy in South Korea. So living wage started in 2015 in Seoul Metropolitan City, who was mayor the Park, as an initiative to improve the quality of employment, especially in low-wage jobs in the regional government, by then mayor, and spread to many other regional governments. So this improved a lot of the wages, non-standard workers, part-timers, and outsourced jobs. And the last policy for the fair work is guaranteeing employment security for temporary employees. It expanded the policy to turn non-standard jobs in the public sector into open-ended contracts in 2012 by the mayor Seoul, the Park Won-soon, and then later more systematic and expansive policy implementation by the central government from the 1970s onward under the President Moon. So 203 and 2,000 non-standard jobs, temporary and part-timer outsourced, had transferred into open-ended contracts in the public sector by 2021. However, it has some implications. Those living wage policy was limited to the public sector and subsectors. That means it was not spread to the private sector. And the guaranteeing employment security for non-standard employees was a long-term issue in South Korea. But also this was limited to the public sector, an unexpected result of a stronger buildup of trade unions. So this is what I prepared for today. So, and any questions on the welcomed. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, and I know it's late for you, so no, fantastic again, and not in your first language. That was really, really clear, and thanks for what you prepared. And I think it gave us a really good feel for the context of community wealth building in South Korea, the different pillars, and also I think some of the moves you mentioned in terms of the regions and cities that's taken it forward. Anyone want to come in? I'll have a look in the chat. We've got about 10 minutes or so on questions or thoughts. I have one myself, but I'm here to hear other voices. Does anyone want to? I'm looking if there's anything specific that some people answered stuff already. Anyone want to come in with a particular question? But before that, please put the question in or put your hand up. I'm going to ask the very obvious question. Well, maybe not that'll be obvious, but what is the key trigger in your own context that keeps the beating heart of community wealth building alive? What is the key thing here, do you think, that's important for you? If you think, well, this is important for us to keep going, what would be the one thing that you think is particularly significant in keeping the flame alive around community wealth building and increasing the pace and scale of it? David?
Neil, I think David has had to leave
that's a
early.
shame.
He was just hanging on as long as he could.
Is Lauren still there?
Lauren's had to go to the same meetings, but they're around for questions after.
Thanks, Elaine. Franz, anything for yourself? Like one key thing to keep the flame alive.
What
Franz?
Key thing to keep the flame alive? Yeah, I think it's as I said before, it's a combination of showing concrete results on the short term, having the backing of the bottom-up organizations and the people here who are in big distrust of everything that comes from the government, and we are seen as part of the government. If we can keep that flame alive, which we try to. Then I think we can go on, and that's what we try to work on. At the same time, I'm doing my own inside, as you said, inside a lobby within politics to keep the interest there, because there's a lot going on, and we have to work hard to keep it on the agenda. It's not a mainstream policy yet. But I think increasingly we are getting closer to the mainstream economic policy of Amsterdam, which is a separate department. It's both lobby, showing results, and listening to the people who are the key persons in the neighborhoods and in the districts and that are involved. If they don't back you, then you're lost.
Great, thanks. No, that's good. And particularly that point about showing results. I think we have the practitioner network in Scotland, and I think we're at the stage now where we need to start to demonstrate the actual results to how it's affecting people's lives, really. Fantastic. I see somebody in the chat, Sharon's put altruism. I don't think we should just rely on altruism, but fair point, fair point, Sharon. EK, any thoughts on you? How to keep the flame alive? What's key for you?
Oh, the key things for the community wealth building in South Korea is like the Franz says, make people believe this is the real change making things, especially for the people that live in the region, and then people who are struggling for the economy, or other the living conditions underprivileged people. So they need to believe this is working for themselves. So I think to make them believe this is powerful solutions for them. That's the one key things. Because when we translate the community wealth building in South Korean language, they feel that they can be rich through this strategy because of the word of the wealth. You know?
Sure.
So So I think we need to make it clear. This is a strategy for a better the local economy circulation and to make the revitalize the local economy system. So
fantastic.
Yeah, so,
No, thank you for that. As I say in America, it has to be the real deal. You know, the real deal has to be really, you know, this is the real deal in terms of improving people's lives and the fortunes of people. Now, we're getting some questions in, and I'm conscious of time. But Anne put her hand up, so I'm going to go to Anne, and we're going to get
Yes.
Anne on screen. Anne,
Yes.
as quick,
Thank
as
you so
pithy, as pithy as you can, Anne.
Thank you very much. And obviously, poverty and economic sustainability is very important. But I'm also wondering if there are any examples about where the corporate world have taken a keen interest in bringing community wealth to apart from recruiting, apart from providing minimum wage, etc., and fair work, but actually sharing their corporate resources, could be skills, could be making better use of transport. I'm thinking about our islands where they build whiskey industries. Are they bringing, for instance, things to the islands instead of going empty? Are they letting joiners sharing? So is there any good examples where actually the natural resources of the corporate world have been shared and brought to the community?
Lovely question. And where are you from? Just quickly, where are you
I'm an
from?
adopted Glaswegian, but I'm originally from Gothenburg in Sweden.
No, I meant we are in Scotland, but you're in Glasgow. I thought you were from the Highlands.
I thought my accent was very strong. I'm Public Health Scotland. Apologies, Public Health Scotland.
Not at all. Yes, so examples of corporate power resources playing into CWB. Franz, then I'll bring in Dr. Bay. Franz.
Yeah, well, this is actually a discussion that we are in Amsterdam, whether we should also focus on the big corporations. As I said, there are a lot of big corporations around our district, the biggest, and some make a plea for focusing on them. We are still focusing on the anchors, on the anchor organizations, which are the hospitals, the universities, the municipality itself, and not so much the big consultants, for example, who really want to come in, but we see it as a kind of charity. But on the other hand, we have to be pragmatic. So we try to find the right balance to work with the big corporations and to, for example, as I said, we set up a catering cooperative, and we are now talking to one of the big consultants to do the catering in their canteen. It's a 2,000 people working in this company, so it's a big canteen, and if this cooperative can provide the catering there, that would be good. But it is a bit of a difficult discussion because well, let's stop there.
Yeah, no, that's good. No, thank you for that. Dr. Bay.
I think he's gonna.
You hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I cannot open the camera. So
that's good. We can hear you.
One of the key motives for community wealth building in Korea is from the former trial of local and regional government to attract big capital to invest in the regional or locals, but mostly they failed. So they are looking for alternative ways of revitalizing local economies or regional economies, because big business are not interested in investing their capital in locals and regions, because the market is small and they have fewer resources than they expected. So they have no interest in investing. The big companies, they have no interest in investing their capital in the locals and regions. So they have to find other ways. So the CWB could be quite alternative ways of developing their economy and revitalizing their economy. They are already stressing and already shrinking their economies.
Yes. What Dr. Bay says, thank you for that, Dr. Bay. What you say is very interesting, because in many ways, South Korean economy is much more successful in Scotland. And you can see then that as you have corporate might and corporate power, and you have high levels of growth and success, what you're seeing is the abandonment or the dereliction or the problems occurring within our local economies because of the behaviour and cultural practices of big corporates, which is something we should be mindful of when we think about our own economic development pathways in Scotland and what we deem to be success. We cannot neglect the local economy. We do it at our peril. Now, there's some great. One more question, I think, and who am I going to choose? There's three great questions. Val, I'm going to ask you to come on camera and ask your question very quickly. Val. Is Val still there?
Hi, can you hear me?
Aye, we can hear you. Fire in quick.
I'm in a noisy office. So my question is, what role has senior leadership for community wealth building played in your place? Because I know that's different in different places. I'm interested to know who that senior leader is, what role they play, and what are the main sort of practical things that they do as a leader for the community wealth building approach in your place.
Nice. Very quickly, Franz. Who and what did they do?
Well, it is the senior politicians here that made the difference. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do this program and to do this as big as we do now. So it's crucial, and it's political leaders of the big political party as well as the mayor, who is also a famous politician. She was before she became a mayor. They adopted it and they support us, and without them, we wouldn't be able to do it.
Fantastic. EK, any thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
We know the mayors in the places I visit in South Korea. Are they crucial to this?
Yeah, I would say because of the initiatives by the local government leaders play an important role, especially when the innovative policies were implemented, such as community wealth building. So in the case of Yeongnam-gun, which I mentioned during my presentation, the Governor Woo was impressed by the community wealth building. The policy, the strategy has made a lot of change in the Preston city and Cleveland as well. So he put a great effort on the making community wealth building policy was really the activating in the regions. So I think the initiatives by the leaders is important.
Thank you. Right, folks, please to thank all our speakers today, and particularly our international guests. You're welcome in Scotland anytime, and there's many people on this call who'd be lovely to meet you and to explore community wealth building with you. And I know that our South Korean colleagues have got a plan to come to Scotland in a few weeks' time, and I'm no doubt I'll be reaching out to you to potentially meet EK and Dr. Bay and the other people from South Korea that's coming over. So thanks very much to Franz. Thanks very much to EK and Dr. Bay. Thanks very much to David Ross. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're also very welcome in Holland and in Amsterdam to come and visit.
We'll all go. We'll have a delegation, will we, folks? We'll have a community wealth building session over there. Yes, we'll take you up on that, right? But just in terms of what's happening in the future, we have the finance pillar session on the 19th of March at 9:30 a.m. That's the fourth community wealth building event as part of the Centre for Excellence. We also have an event coming up before June, which is on the community wealth building primary legislation. So that will be before June. Also, just to keep you informed that we have a video being produced at the moment on community wealth building, which features Councillor Ross and others. So that's been in production. We've got a refresh of the guide, the community wealth building guide being done. And we also, if you haven't seen it, we've got new resources pages or the development on the EDAS website, and there's lots of stuff and information about community wealth building on the community wealth building pages. Also, well, is please fill in your evaluation forms. There's a link there in the chat. Look, we need to learn, we need to get better. At the moment, about 10 or 15% of people only fill in the form. We need many more people to fill in that form. So please, could you please fill in your evaluation forms, because it means that we can make these even better in the future. So that's my last plea. Thanks very much for attending. Lovely being with you all as always, and hopefully see you on the 19th of March. I'll be coming in from Australia at that point, so it'll be late, and I'll be one that's very late in that meeting, very late at night for me. So enjoy the rest of your day. I hope it brightens up. It's raining here in Oban. Thanks very much, and see you again soon. Ta-ra.
Thank you. See you again.